Well, all right. I think if Scott Lang or Ant-Man resonates with Marvel fans, it might be the fact that he is a regular guy with no innate superpower, that he's a father, that he is conflicted uh, between being a regular guy who wants to just be a dad and being a superhero, and he tries to find the balance of those two things. I think that's a I think that that is something that people can relate to. Certainly parents can relate to, just being a parent and then having their job or trying to do what it is they need to do and balance all of that. But I think those struggles are relatable. And the fact that he's a regular person thrown into this extraordinary circumstance is kind of fun to watch, because it makes people think, well, you know, what would I do if I was in that situation? I think Scott's role or feelings about being a superhero have changed since the first Ant-Man, and that he's accepted it now. I think he's been through a lot, clearly. You know, at the beginning of the first Ant-Man, he had no idea about super suits or being in he didn't really know what the Avengers were. So he was a regular guy. You know, a regular guy just getting out of jail. And now, however many years later, 8, 9, and also with quantum realm and snaps and timelines, I mean, who knows? Maybe it's more. He has been through a lot. He's grown up. He's saved the universe. He's missed 5 years. So, I mean, a lot's happened to this guy. And as a result, he's gained knowledge. So when we start in Quantumania, Scott he's doing all right. He's taking a little bit of a victory lap. He feels good because all that stuff is in the rear view mirror. And now he finally gets to do what he wants to do, which he hasn't been able to do for the last 8 or 9 years, which is breathe, relax, and spend some time with his daughter. And that lasts for about 5 minutes. I think, you know, during when you look at Scott and Hope, and certainly in the first Ant-Man, when it was pretty adversarial, I think a partnership formed over the course of many years. And obviously Ant-Man and the Wasp, and in Marvel history, Ant-Man and the Wasp were a powerful duo. And now in Quantumania, I think their relationship is probably better than it's ever been, even more than in Endgame. Well, she was gone for a while. They weren't together so much for a good chunk of time. But you know what? A lot of people lost time with one another, I think, during Blink Out. So now they're also kind of making up for lost time. Scott and Hope they're a pretty strong couple.
Describe Scott's relationship with Cassie now that she's all grown up.
Scott's relationship with Cassie, now that she's all grown up, I don't know if she's all grown up. I think she's older than, you know, she was in some of the earlier Ant-Man films. But I think that it's Scott's relationship with Cassie is really at the core of what these movies are about. And, you know, she's a young woman, and Scott missed a lot of time with her. And so he kind of wants to make up for lost time. And, you know, when you're doing that, it's hard. Sometimes it's hard for a parent to fully embrace or understand or accept that their child is no longer a little kid, especially if you miss some time. And I think that Scott wants to protect her, and he wants to be a dad. And it's tricky when I think Cassie has some ideas of her own, and Scott is a little concerned about that. I think the signature of the Ant-Man movies are family. It's the thing that kind of separates them a little bit from some of the others. One, the hero, the titular hero, and I love saying the word titular, is a parent. That is different than some of the other Avengers. And the relationship between parents and kids is really at the forefront in the strength of family. I think that in Quantumania that exists. And maybe people have been hearing that this one is very different, and it is true. It is epic in scale, and we've got a real big baddie. And it's opened up to this insane, intense, and crazy world that looks different than the first two. But the ideas and the themes and some of the humor and all of the stuff that existed in those other Ant-Man movies, I think is in this one too. It's all of that plus Quantum Universe plus Kang the Conqueror. It's very tough to describe the quantum realm, but I think that if early on when we were doing the very first Ant-Man movies, and we had this conversation of like, what if you did just keep getting smaller and smaller? Like if there wasn't a regulator on the belt and you could just get smaller and smaller and smaller until you were in some completely strange landscape in an unknown universe. And what if it was just an unknown universe? Like could that exist? Absolutely could. Maybe we're in a quantum realm right now on terra firma, and everything out there is somebody else's just, universe under someone else's fingernail. I mean, this is the whole thing about science. This exists. This is real, folks. So, the movie takes place underneath the fingernail. So Kang the Conqueror is a very formidable villain. He's tough. I think we've all seen clips of Jonathan Majors without a shirt on fighting somebody in everything he's been in. And I think it's believable to think that this guy might be the baddest man on the planet. He's tough. He's an amazing actor. He's in incredible shape. And he's stepping into the shoes of Kang the Conqueror, which are big shoes to fill. Kang is actually, I believe, tougher than Thanos, who's no slouch. And he can he has variants. He can go through multiple timelines, multiple universes. He's a tough guy. And does Scott Lang have a chance? Well, you'll have to see the movie to find out for sure. But I sure like that it's the fact that Ant-Man is the one that's going to go up against this guy. Because you know what? Ant-Man's probably the toughest Avenger. And I think everybody agrees with that, right? Right? No? No. Well, it's nice when you get to work on a movie and you're working with the same actors that you've worked with in the past for several reasons. You kind of get to know each other's rhythms, you know who they are. It's fun to kind of expand on the relationships. Our understanding of our characters grows with each one, and our understanding of the relationship we have to one another. So that's really good. I think it actually helps the work, and it's also nice because it's a really nice group of people, and we get to spend time with friends at this point. So that's really exciting. And it was also great in this one to have a few new faces, Catherine Newton and Jonathan Majors. They're such great actors to be able to watch what they do and act with them, but to spend time with them, get to know them, and hang out with them.
Well, Hope has changed tremendously since the first film. I feel sometimes like I get whiplash trying to keep up with how quickly her life changes and evolves. When we first met her in the first Ant-Man film, she was a corporate woman who was completely dedicated to her work, had no intimate relationships to be spoken of in her life, was estranged from her father, had believed her mother was dead, and was in no romantic relationship. Cut to 4 or 5 hours of cinema later, 2 films later, at the beginning of Quantumania, she has repaired her relationship with her father, she has recovered her mother from the quantum realm, she has fallen in love with Scott Lang, and now she's stepmomming little Cassie Lang, who's a young woman. And her life is just totally transformed. Her life is full of love, it's full of intimacy and connection and vulnerability, and all of that peace and contentment that comes from that is just pouring out into her work, which she has now dedicated her company, PIM Technologies, to solving the largest problems of the world, like global warming or the housing crisis. So she is a renewed woman. She is a very different person than when I first started playing her. Well, I'm not easily impressed in real life, and neither is Hope. I am a little bit cynical, and so is Hope. But I'm very soft on the inside, despite having a somewhat harder exterior, like a tough, not hard, but a tougher exterior. And I think that what was fun and surprising to play with Hope was to reveal to the audience that inside there's this really tender, loving, caring woman. So, you know, I think we share those qualities. I don't know all of the ways that Hope is using the PIM technology for humanitarian efforts, but I do know that one of the things that we talked about when conceiving these and sort of trying to establish who she is now and what she's up to was that she was creating tiny little communities so that we could deal with both the housing crisis and global warming. Because if our homes take up less land, if our homes take up less energy, if people take up less land and energy, then ultimately there's more to go around. You know, one blackberry could feed an entire community for breakfast, and so that's one of the ways that I know that Hope has been using PIM tech to try to make the world a better place. Well, I think when Hope lost her mommy when she was 8 years old, she harbored all of these fantasies that Mom was coming back and what that would be like for her. And I think she really believed that there would be this idealistic, perfect reunion where they would become best friends and they would tell each other everything. And, you know, when she went through her teen life, I'm sure there were still fantasies of like, oh, if I had a boyfriend, I could talk to my mom about it, but I just have this crazy old man who likes ants to talk to about it. And so she harbored idealistic ideas. And then when Janet actually came back, she had severe PTSD from the quantum realm and all of the things she experienced there. And she doesn't feel that she can share that with her family. And so Hope is feeling really shut out by her mom. Janet is keeping secrets from them all. And it's really painful for Hope. And the way Hope deals with her pain is she is notorious for just being pissed. She just gets mad because she's not very good with dealing with her pain. So she's really angry. She's angry, and she feels really, really disappointed that this reunion with Janet isn't all the things she hoped it would be. Well, you know, harking back to what I was talking about with Janet and Hope, in this disappointment that she doesn't have the intimacy that she hoped to have with her mother, she doesn't have the friendship that she hoped to have where Janet trusts her and trusts her with her stories and with her life and with her secrets. I think there's a translation to how Hope relates to Cassie, and she doesn't keep anything from Cassie. She didn't change her diapers. She didn't, you know, wipe snot from her nose. She doesn't have that kind of relationship with Cassie. She just sees this brilliant, capable, really cool young woman who she sees no reason to not trust her and not believe in her capabilities. And so she really treats her as an equal and treats her very much as an adult. And I think she's somewhat baffled by the fact that Scott doesn't, and that Scott can't seem to see Cassie as the incredible young woman or the capable young woman that she has become. And I do think that there's some level of like knee-jerk reaction to the disappointment she feels in her relationship with Janet, and be like, I'm not going to do that to Cassie. I'm going to make it different for her. So the Pym, Lang, Van Dyne family end up in the quantum realm because Hank and Hope have been toying with new quantum technology with Cassie. Cassie has grown up in this incredible family of scientists. She's very curious. She's been doing her own experimentation, and Hank and Hope have really encouraged it. They've seen no reason not to. And unfortunately, she's created a Hubble telescope type two-way radio with the quantum realm, and she turns it on in Hank's lab in the basement. And when she does so, Janet freaks out, knowing that that's a very bad idea because there's something down there we don't all know about. And she rips it out of the wall and eliminates the connection to the quantum realm. But nonetheless, some other energy force comes back through this two-way radio and enters the room and starts sucking the entire room, including the family, down into the quantum realm with it. I think the signature of an Ant-Man film is, first of all, family first. It's all about family dynamics and family stories. It's also about humor and lightness and sweetness. And in a big, sweeping, epic Marvel tale like the one that we're telling, with very, very high stakes and a very formidable bad guy, a very formidable villain, somehow Peyton still managed to hang on to the film being essentially about family, being essentially sweet and always funny. I would describe the quantum realm as the opening of new possibilities. So we have the multiverse already. And essentially, there is no distinction between the difference between a universe that is out there versus a universe that is in here or in there or around us. So there's just this infinitude of possibility that if you go into the quantum realm, any which direction, and direction doesn't exist really in that space, but in our concepts, in any which direction, in any which way, you can encounter something never before conceived of. It could be a void, it could be a vacuum, it could be a dense space that is completely claustrophobic that life can't exist in. It could be literally anything. So once you open up one space, which is in the quantum realm, you've opened up every possibility for the Marvel Cinematic Universe to go wherever they want, whenever they want, however they want.
What did it mean to me to join the MCU? What did it mean to me to join the MCU? Holy smokes. It's a huge surprise. There's dreams you have as a child. You just want to be an actor. Really want to tell stories, but I never imagined that it would be at this level with these people at this time. The MCU has evolved. And so to come at it at this point in my career, where they are in their trajectory, is just it's mind-blowing, life-changing, extremely humbling, and quite exciting. What would I say is the key to a good villain in the MCU? Well, you have to have a nice voice. You need a good costume. But ultimately, you need to really understand what that character is going after, and be willing to. The thing I think that separates a villain from a hero is the rules the discomfort that person is willing to experience, and is be quite comfortable with isolation. What else? You gotta let it all hang out as a villain. You gotta be willing to do that and take it there. Yeah. So you guys saw me as He Who Remains, and now very soon, or if not already, you will see me as Kang. How are these characters different, and how are they the same? Well, first I'll say how they're different, and how are they variants of each other. They both have what I call, this is not in the comic books, the Kang gene, right? They have this Kang gene, and the Kang gene is this little bitty element that's inside each Kang that makes them, it's like the little chip that's in them. And they all have the same chip, though they have different operating systems. They also have different software, but they have the same chip. This is getting crazy. But that's how I'm working right now. He Who Remains is a bit more outwardly intellectual. He lives in that world a bit more. He's also physical. Kang is, by definition of his name, a conqueror. So he's extremely physically active. He's making change in his current space, in his current world. Though he's also has a very hyper intelligence. That's overall with Kangs. Kangs have hyper intelligence. That's in comic books. How else are they different? Well, one wears flip-flops and one wears combat boots. I can go on forever. Next question. What makes Kang the MCU's new and extremely formidable supervillain? One, this is a supervillain that is first and foremost flesh and blood. That is spooky, because you can relate to him. The other thing is, he's seen everything. He knows everything. And it is that amount of time and his relationship to time that makes him that cunning, which gives him that much uh, uncomfortability for the things he's seen, you know, and he has opinions on it, and he has feelings about that. Imagine having feelings about not just your life, but hundreds of thousands of millions of infinite lives. All of that emotion, all of those thoughts, all those dreams and nightmares, all in one individual. That person is extremely dangerous, and is not to be reckoned with. How do I prepare to shoot a scene? Welcome to the actor studio. No. How do I do that? My process is probably, it's not dissimilar from any other actor's process, but I have my own way, I guess, my approach. I believe that I want to do as little acting as possible, and so I try to keep the character as close to me as possible, if not, stay inside the character as much as I can, and only kind of pop out, as Jonathan when needs be, doing that respectively of my crew and my fellow castmates. The one thing they may not like is that I do not compromise on playing music. I play my music in the trailer when I wake up in the morning, on game days, I guess on shoot days. And the music is just like a bell, and it just lets me know where we're going that day. It speaks to my instrument, it speaks to the scene, it gives the set a certain energy, and I do that. It's something that me and my theater company would do. I kept it going as I transitioned into film and television, and it rings a bell. Lets everybody know this is where we're at, and I might be wrong sometimes, and I'll change the song, or if it's getting real serious, I'll turn it off. But we always have the headphones. You gotta do what you gotta do. Yeah. What has Kang done with its inhabitants, his inhabitants? What has Kang done with the inhabitants of the quantum realm, where I dwell? Well, spoiler alert, they've been conquered.
To join the MCU was the biggest dream come true. I've been dreaming about being a Marvel superhero since I saw Iron Man when I was 8 years old with my dad in the movie theater, and I said that I wanted to be the biggest Marvel superhero of all time, which is very ironic because my dream came true. Cassie Lang is the biggest superhero. She's 40 feet tall. So dream big. Don't give up on your dreams. I mean, I told myself by the time I was 25, if I'm not a Marvel superhero, then I'm not an actress and I should quit. So I just think that it's proof that dreams come true, and I can't believe it. So now I have to come up with a new dream. I think Ant-Man movies resonate with audiences around the world because Ant-Man is the everyman, and I think that he's super relatable because he's just like me. He's just normal, and that's what I related to most about Cassie Lang and why I was so excited for the opportunity to bring this character to life. She's a dork, she's a mess, she's impatient, but the biggest thing is she has a really huge heart, and I know that that's a beautiful thing, but it really gets her into a lot of trouble because she doesn't understand what it means to be a hero yet. But she wants to make her dad proud, so she's gonna do whatever it takes to do it.
Cassie is all grown up. How would you describe her character?
I would describe Cassie Lang, she is all grown up. Cassie Lang is all grown up, and I'd describe her as impatient, open-hearted, and ambitious. She's seriously ambitious. She's got a mind of her own now. It's been a while since we've seen her, and she's been through a lot. Her dad's been gone, and she had to make a choice, and she chose to look out for the little guy. She was a hero in her own way, even without the super suit. I think that she just fights the good fight, and you can feel that. And in this movie, I hope that audiences feel how much we wanted to show that her heart is huge, and just kind of what a mess she is. She's tripping over herself and kind of a klutz, just like me, kind of a dork. But I think it makes for an interesting character because no one just wakes up a superhero. I mean, maybe some do, but Cassie Lang definitely doesn't just wake up and know how to save the world. I think Cassie's relationship with her dad, Scott, is kind of tumultuous at first. She is who she is, she knows who she is, and he doesn't know who she is anymore. he's got to be reintroduced to Cassie and who she's becoming. She's got ideas of her own, and he's got to kind of listen. In this movie, the heart of the story is a father and a daughter reconnecting. I like to jokingly say it's like a road trip movie, father-daughter trip through the quantum realm, and you know, they're learning about themselves all over again. They're making up for lost time, and I can really relate to that, and I think a lot of people can relate to reconnecting and making up for lost time. You know, if you get a chance to hang out with your parents, she's kind of lucky that she gets to hang out with her dad, even though she kind of unlocked the biggest supervillain of all time and everything is her fault. She gets to reconnect with her dad, so that's the plus side of making a huge mistake. Finding the father-daughter dynamic with Paul Rudd was the easiest thing ever. He's the best actor ever. He's so funny. I'm so lucky because I always dreamed of being in the Marvel movies. And I got to be in a movie with Paul Rudd, someone I'm a huge fan of. And, you know, he just believed in me, he trusted me, and he told me not to hold back and to take risks and to try that joke and not be afraid to fail, which is the most beautiful thing because he didn't have to do that. This is his franchise, it's his movie. He could have just come to work every day and like said bye, but he encouraged me to try, which I think is very Ant-Man. It's very superhero. He was definitely my hero on this movie, and without him, I wouldn't have been able to take as many risks. That trust let me fly. Cassie's relationship with Hope is kind of like great. I think that Hope really supports Cassie. She believes in Cassie and kind of wants her to just jump. I think Ant-Man is the opposite of that. He wants to keep Cassie safe. He doesn't want her to take risks. He wants to protect her at all costs. And you can feel that in the movie, and it causes like a tension between Hope and Ant-Man and Cassie, but Hope's got Cassie's back, and I think it just is empowering. It's, you know, women helping women. It's a family kind of love and support, and I'm excited to see audiences feel that. Hope, Janet, Scott, Cassie, and Hank end up in the quantum realm all because of Cassie. It's her fault. She doesn't know what she's doing. She unlocks some portal thing to the quantum realm. Thinks she's doing the right thing. Once again, good intention, not well thought out. Doesn't that sound relatable? Doesn't that sound like something you do on a daily basis? Because I do. I say things without thinking, just like I'm doing right now. I spoil parts of Marvel movies, just like Tom Holland. So it's all Cassie's fault. And it was a really big deal on set. It was like, we shot that scene for like a week, right? And on the first day, there was rewrites happening and all this stuff happening, and Peyton and I looked at each other and we're like, wait a minute. We need to make it really clear, this is Cassie's fault. This was her idea, so that way when, you know, we get to the latter half of the movie and there's this tragedy and these bad things are happening and people are getting hurt, she feels the weight of what it actually means to be a hero. It's not always good. You don't always get the glory. You hurt people. So she's got to feel that. She learns the hard way. I mean, it's kind of like not fair really that she goes face to face with Kang on her first rodeo. I guess you got to learn one day. I think the quantum realm is limitless, and the impact it's going to have on the MCU is unparalleled because I don't even know what's in there. But in this movie, like, you get to meet some really cool characters that are kind of cute, and that's my favorite part.
Well, I think Quantumania is very much an Ant-Man movie. We continue the story of the Langs and the Pyms and the Van Dynes and tell that family story and sort of progress the story, the family dynamics. But this time we take them deep down into the quantum realm, further than they've ever been. So really, the Ant-Man movies have always been about family, so it's telling the story, the generational story of this family of heroes, but now putting them up against the most formidable villain they've ever faced, and that's Kang the Conqueror. When we shot the first Ant-Man, you know, Scott Lang was an ex-con who was down on his luck. He'd made some bad choices, but he was really operating outside of the Avengers. He was really playing in the margins. Now, by the time we're in our third Ant-Man movie with Quantumania, he's a full-fledged Avenger. And in fact, he's written a book about the battle with Thanos and his rise to becoming a hero. But now we're gonna put him front and center in Quantumania. Ant-Man and Wasp are the first Avengers to face off with Kang the Conqueror. So it's been fun to see Scott Lang move from someone who was outside of the Avengers to now being front and center. The Scott-Cassie Lang dynamic has always been the central relationship in the Ant-Man movies. His biggest priority in life is to be a good father to his daughter, and he's lost a lot of time with her over the years. Now, as a result of the events of Avengers Endgame, he's lost another 5 years, and Cassie's no longer a little girl, she's an 18-year-old young woman. So I think Scott maybe still relates to her as a girl at times, and he has to learn to accept that she has her own ideas about how to make her way in the world, and her finding her voice as a hero, and the idea that maybe she has some very different ideas than her dad has about being a hero, and she can in fact be quite critical of him. So it was fun to sort of play out that dynamic between father-daughter and to grow and progress that relationship, and also to play out the arc of, throughout the events of Quantumania, Cassie becoming a hero in her own right. In the last movie, in Ant-Man and the Wasp, Hank and Hope successfully rescue Janet Van Dyne from the quantum realm. She's been there for 30 years, and I think for Hope Van Dyne, she had this expectation, I'm gonna get to know my mom again, you know, and we're gonna be able to catch up and have conversations about what her life was like down there and what Hope's life was like up here, and maybe even get some advice about how to be a hero. But we like the idea of what would happen if maybe Janet put up a little bit of a wall and is not willing to talk about her time down there. Maybe she can't, you know, maybe there's a little bit of PTSD. And the movie really deals with the idea that she's put her past behind her, but of course, the past is never done with you, and she has to confront her past in a very real way. And what if her past included a confrontation with Kang the Conqueror? That was something that we really was central to the story of Quantumania. The quantum realm has always been a part of the Ant-Man movies. We introduced it in the first Ant-Man and then sent Hank Pym down to rescue Janet Van Dyne in Ant-Man and the Wasp, but this time we take the audience full on into the quantum realm and experience it and live there for a while. And also to sort of answer some of the questions about what it was Janet Van Dyne was doing down there for 30 years and who she was down there. You know, we introduced her in this movie serving pizza to her family in a really domestic situation, which is nice. She's got some good family time, but after they're thrown into the quantum realm, we really start to see Janet come back to life and rediscover who she was down there and confront her past. So that was exciting for us, and also the idea that the quantum realm was really the thing that Scott Lang was able to use to help defeat Thanos in Avengers Endgame. So the quantum realm is really our corner of the Marvel Cinematic Universe that the Ant-Man movies have been able to play around with, but we really bring it to life in a really vivid fashion in this movie. I grew up reading the Marvel comics, and I always loved Kang the Conqueror in the comic books, so it was a big challenge, which I was really excited to bring to the MCU, to create Kang the Conqueror in the movies. And fortunately, we cast Jonathan Majors in the role, and Jonathan is, he's a force of nature. We needed someone to play Kang who was a physically imposing character. He's a villain who has dominion over time. He's a time traveler. He doesn't experience life in a straight line, past, present, and future. He sort of lives these multiple timelines, and he's had all these experiences, and he's a kind of a broken man, a man who lives outside of time. So we wanted to make him the most powerful villain that Scott and Hope have ever come up against. And also we kick off Phase 5 with Kang the Conqueror. And one of, I think, the unique things about Kang is he's battling our heroes, but we come to find out he's also at war with different versions of himself, his variants. Very early on in Quantumania, Cassie Lang has been studying with Hank Pym and has gone through a lot of his journals over the 5 years where everybody was gone, and has become quite a knowledgeable quantum physicist in her own right. She's created a device that allows them to not go into the quantum realm, but to be able to map it out. And I think she sort of lives with that loss of her dad for 5 years. And she says, you know, if I had been able to invent this earlier, maybe I could have found you in the quantum realm. What happens, though, is that device sends a signal into the quantum realm, which is picked up on the other end by some dark forces. And what happens is it sends a signal out, and it immediately thrusts our heroes down into the quantum realm. They had no idea they were going down there. They never wanted to go back. But they're forced to be down there now, and we find out that the reason they were thrust down there is someone down there who needs them, and maybe in particular needs Scott Lang and his ability to acquire things. So it's a bit of a quantum realm heist, and that someone is Kang the Conqueror. I think what's fun about having been able to do a trilogy of Ant-Man movies is we've been doing this for 8 or 9 years, and Paul, Michael, Evangeline, Michelle, and now Catherine Newton and Jonathan Majors, you know, we've sort of formed this Ant family, and we've been doing it together for a while, and the movie really is all about family and family dynamics, and behind the scenes, we have our own family dynamics. So that's been fun, is to sort of like see everybody in their real life grow as we've, you know, grown the family in the movies themselves. So to be able to do a third one and then really blow it out and create this sort of epic, crazy family trip gone wrong was really, really fun. I think going into any of these movies, the biggest thing you want to do is surprise the audience. The worst thing you can do is to bore an audience or show them something that they've seen before. So as we took this movie and our characters into the quantum realm, I really wanted to finally present the quantum realm in all its glory. You know, we dipped our toe into it in the first movie and a little bit more in the second movie, but this time the bulk of the movie takes place there. So we were able to work with a team of incredible visual artists and, of course, visual effects artists to really bring the quantum realm to life. So I think that's something that, as our heroes find these unexpected characters and situations down there, we're going to take the audience down with us. And you know, we shot the movie in large format IMAX, so creating that world and all the crazy inhabitants of that world was one of the biggest things that hopefully the audience will be thrilled with.
Well, I think they not only are they, you know, they have a lot of action and adventure and fantasy, but there's also there's so much heart, and I think that's sort of, and the humor involved, and it's really smart. I think, and it in some ways, Ant-Man feels like a genre all its own. It feels different than other superhero movies. So I think it's new and it's fresh and it's unexpected. The characters are really based in reality, but they're set in this fantasy world, and it sort of probably just taps into everyone's desire to be a superhero. Yeah. Well, Janet has been down in the quantum realm for 30 years, and I think at a certain point, really had doubts that she would ever leave the quantum realm. And I think when she is reunited with her husband Hank and her daughter Hope, it's, you know, it's just like a dream come true, and I think she's just relishing, you know, and savoring every moment with them. And yet, you know, she's decided to really keep a lot of the details of what went down there. In fact, mostly everything that went down there a secret. Some of it out of shame, some of it out of a desire and a need to protect her family. And then when they find themselves all together down in this parallel universe, she is really forced to not only try to keep her family alive, but to you know, tell the truth about things, and in a place where she never, ever had hoped to see again.
Well, I guess you have to break up the relationship with Janet and Hank into different sections. There was the sections in the first Ant-Man when they were both a team working together and fighting the evils of the world, and were married at the same time, partners in crime and working together. And then you have a 30-year separation, which you don't know without having any contact between each other as to what actually went down. And then this time now, when they're back together again, and although Quantumania doesn't really get into much of the relationship about how they're getting along or how they're getting before this incident happens, it takes us on this journey back into the quantum realm. You can get a sense that they are equals. This is a woman, my wife, who suffers no idiots, very bright. I think we have a kind of a professional relationship, mutual respect, but like to kind of give everybody a little bit of a little zeist once in a while, you know, just a little bit of an edge to keep it all going. And who knows? I think that this whole experience of being down there has brought them, with all the years of absence, has brought them closer together than they'd ever have been before.
Acting.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what we do. Is we you know, sort of work together to develop this relationship and bring reality to it. I bring my life, of being married to my husband for 30 years, and Michael brings, you know, his experience, and yeah, and then, you know, I mean, it helps. We like each other, you know. I think we have, we both have been around a long time, and I don't find our approach to acting different, and you know, sometimes people can have such a very different approaches to acting. It can maybe sort of, you know, get in the way of each other. But no, it was fun.
Reminds him probably pretty much of his relationship with his daughter, Evangeline, feisty, independent, always trying to show what she's capable of doing more than I anticipate or expect. Always ahead of the curve. Probably Hope was like that. Highly, highly ambitious. Very smart mind, but trying to keep some kind of control over the whole situation, and not really knowing whether you can or not, whether you have that power. Deeply fond of her. Wonderful to want to see the way she's going to turn out. Just not expecting her to move as quickly as she does.
Well, they were all doing a little experimenting behind my back. That's how we all ended up in the quantum realm. And Janet is not happy about it, but doesn't really have time to deal with that, because once they do end up in the quantum realm, it's about survival. And it's about Janet using her knowledge, her skills, her relationships, to try to keep them safe and get them out of there as quickly as she can.
Our family, when you say Janet's family, I think, you know, our family is reminded after their absence of just how qualified she is, and how good she is, and how she likes to lead, and although she was not responsible for putting us in this dire situation, she's instrumental in getting us out. So I think that she has a great ability to take on leadership, and because she has also the responsibility of knowing the quantum realm better than anybody else, she can't really share or have a chance to share the burden. So it's a tremendous burden that she carries the mantle very well as reevaluating some of her previous relationships down there in the quantum realm. I don't know. I think, well, hopefully they'll be able to use this set over and over again. It seems to be where everybody's heading, down here to the quantum realm. They did a brilliant job. I mean, Peyton Peyton Reed, our director, and the production design team and everything else created really a spectacular world in this quantum realm, using all sorts of imagery. We were speaking to Peyton earlier in terms of the use of electron microscopes and developing. It's a very psychedelic world in a lot of areas, in a lot of places, and it seems it's not so much what the world is, but what people bring to that world. We get some sense that there's some mining going on to some degree, although we don't exactly know what it is that's being mined down there. But I'm sure that'll come up in some other Marvel films in the future. But it really is a place that lets whoever comes down there bring their influence and power. And I think it'll be a strong standing point in this sort of phase 5, which I guess Quantumania is the beginning of it, involving Kang and the quantum realm. So it'll be exciting to see what the future holds.